Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for stopping by the BMX Podcast. Once again, my name is Kevin Wilson, your host for the day, along with my esteemed colleague, Danny Pena, on the co-hosting on He's Riding Shotgun. And today we have a guest on that I've been looking forward to talking to again for several weeks now, Mr. Richard Kerr. Rich Kerr, thank you very much for coming on, bud. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to this.
I feel sorry for Danny because I know that you met Danny one day at Dirty Fest, but I've been telling Danny all about your stories for the last 3 weeks, and Danny was just like, "Dude, you told me the story already." I'm like, "No, dude, this is a good story, man." So yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
I listened to him a little bit on when we were at Dirty Fest. He kept coming into the booth, and
yeah.
You got to share the one story I know you have to share is when you went into pro practice and you weren't supposed to. That was really funny. That was a good one.
So it was really great. The first day it set up, I came back to the booth and there was a bunch of stuff laying next to my booth, and Richard's very sweet wife was out there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're my new neighbor." And we were talking. I go, "Is your husband anybody famous?" And she's like, "No, he's not famous." I go, "What's his name?" You go, Richard Kerr. And I go, "Wait, I've heard that name before." And then when he came out, I called him John Kerr for like the first hour he was there. He kept correcting me, "Dude, my name's Richard, not John." So I apologize for that. But after I got his name down, we had a great time where Richard was sharing all of his great stories, man. And I was like, I felt like he was Yoda, and I was like Luke Skywalker, man. So that was very cool, Richard. Thank you, man.
Very cool.
Yeah, had a great time.
And Danny, I don't know if you caught this, where every time someone came up to his booth and he would be talking to him, he knows a lot of famous guys. He knows everybody. And after that person would leave, he would walk over and he goes, "Hey, dude, that was Clint Miller, dude, and that was so and so." And it kind of giving me a little bit of a look in the side. I go, "Hey, that guy rode for Main Bikes." And then Richard would roll his eyes like, "Yeah, I know, dude." It was hilarious, man. So Richard has a very interesting background, and I've been teasing this title for this video for a long time, the fastest junior high in the history of BMX. And Richard, can you tell me a little bit of where you grew up and give us a little bit of a history on how you got into BMX, your claim to fame at your junior high school? Who was on your team? And give us a little bit of background, if you don't mind, bud.
Yeah, so I was born in Lakewood, California, and it's more of a skate surf community. But my family, I was youngest of 4 kids. Spacing is like 5, 9, and 10 years, and I'm the youngest. And everybody was already riding motorcycles and dune buggies, and so it wasn't if I was going to ride, but when. And I was just on my bike constantly back then. I couldn't get off it. I just loved riding my bike. Everywhere I went, I was on my bike. And then I raced a race at a park. They had built a track for a day or a weekend in a city park, and they held a race. It was like 72. I think I was 8 years old. And I raced that race.
In Lakewood.
Go ahead.
This is in Lakewood?
In Lakewood, yeah.
Okay.
And then I would ride, there was a place called Hollyfield. And I would ride at Hollyfield. And I didn't have any boundaries back then. As a kid, kids today, you got to keep an eye on them. They're, if they play outside at all. Me, it was being the typical, when the street lights were on, be home, And I would ride to the motorcycle shops, Bellflower Yamaha, Downwind Suzuki. I'd ride to the beach, wherever my bike would take me, I went. And then in '76, we moved to Riverside. And I tell you, that was a hard move for me because I didn't know anything different. My best friend Andrew was in Lakewood, and my whole life, that's all I knew at that point. And then I wake up we got there at night. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, well, let me check this place out. And across the street from my house was this dried up reservoir called the Crater. And at the end of the week, I was like, Lake, what? I mean, Riverside was my home. It had so much.
You totally adapted to it. You had no problem moving to Riverside.
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, it was a shock to the system. And then I didn't know that there was that many jumps, that many. In Lakewood, there was fields here and there. And like I said, that track Holly Field. But I mean, there was so many places to ride, so many places to jump. And I was like, this is like nirvana, you know, for a kid on a BMX bike having a Crater. Just literally, I look out my window and I could see it.
The Crater.
And
awesome name. The Crater.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so then I go to school, Wells Intermediate School, and during PE, the coach is like, hey, we're going to have a BMX team. I'm like, no way. We're going to race at Corona Downhill, Corona Raceway. And I raced motocross some back then at Corona. And I'm like, hey, Mike, dude, let's do it. Let's race, you know? And so, yeah.
Mike Miranda, for anybody that's wondering who Mike is.
Sorry, Mike Miranda. And it's funny, Mike was like, he tells the story all the time. He says, I elbowed him. Hey, we're going to go do this. I think I might have been waking him up. Hey, Mike, you paying attention? And so, yeah, then, you know, Corona Downhill was our local track. And it's funny because people kind of like have mythicized that place. But to us here in Riverside, it was just a place we went and rode. You know, Mike told the story about how we ditched school one day to go practice before the race. And of course, we did it for school pride. You know, we wanted to represent our school. So we figured missing class wouldn't hurt it would help the school more than hurt us.
And we're talking junior high school, not even high school.
Yeah, junior high. All the high schools had motocross teams.
Okay.
Wow.
So my brother went to Norte Vista High School, and they had a motocross team, and they raced Friday night out at Corona Raceway, and it was part of the Friday night racing program. And they had them divided up into the high school classes and then they still had the 125, 250 mini, that kind of thing. And then the junior highs, they all had BMX teams. And so, you know, we had Mike Miranda, Joe Claveau, Lee Medlin, Kurt Claveau.
Holy crap.
And for those, I mean, Joe won National #1 Cruiser. Lee was world champion. Mike, Nora Cup. You know, everyone knows Mike. You know, all these names are known.
Now, was Kevin McNeil the same junior high school as you guys, or was he different?
What's that?
Was Kevin McNeil in your junior high, or was he a different school?
No, Kevin's older. He's probably my brother's age, like 5 years older than I was.
Okay, all right, okay.
And he went to, I think, Notre Dame, a Catholic school in town.
Okay.
And so he would have been older and not part of the Wells team or anything like that. But he just lived a block away from Norte Vista High School. And Leo Green, he was another AA pro, teammate of Kevin's often. He lived right there in town too. So Riverside back then just had a ton of BMX talent. And it was a blessing because riding out in the fields were kind of like mini nationals, you know, and riding with that group of guys, you couldn't help but get good. You know, I'd often said, put me on any other school campus in the state, you know, I would be a standout rider, you know. But also, I think that pushed me to a higher level. I don't know. Put me on another campus, you know, maybe I wouldn't have risen to the level I did. Not that I made it, you know, my riding skills are really good. And when you're out in the hills riding with those guys, you know how it is. Hey, who's going to do this first? And
who's going to know?
No one wants to be that guy that doesn't do it, right?
Yep.
And when you're with those group of guys, that bar gets raised constantly. And that's how you get better as a rider.
Yeah, if they're older than you, or they're your same age and they're your rivals or your frenemies or whatever, dude, I can totally relate, man. Do you think you would have raced if you hadn't been in that class when the PE teacher came in? Had you raced before that, or was that the first time you thought about racing?
No, I raced, like I said, in like 72.
Motocross.
When they built that track, it was BMX.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think that, be honest with you, that race in the park that they did for the weekend, I want to say it was probably inspired by the Super Bowl motocross. Remember, they had it at the Coliseum. It was advertised immensely back then. And I want to say it was maybe inspired by that. Like they had seen that they're building a track in the Coliseum for the weekend. Why can't we do it in our park? And I can't say for sure, but I kind of think that was their inspiration. And I would have. I was raised in motocross and BMX from here and there. Kevin McNeil had, I think, three different tracks in Riverside that I raced. So
BMX tracks and motocross, or
no, they're just BMX.
Okay, all right.
There was one over Sears, and then two up at the end of Jones Street. He had two different tracks up there, and I had raced those tracks. So those weren't part of the school system. So I would have continued to race, I think.
Even
it was just really cool to be part of the team. And I wish I had it sitting here right now. I have a trophy. Every year our class won. Because at the end of the season they would give out, class winning trophies, like 7th grade class. And we won 7th and 8th grade. I don't know about probably 6th grade too. It was an intermediate school. But with that talent, I mean, how could we not,
I think you brought that trophy to Dirty Fest the second day. I think you showed it to me.
Yeah. And what happened was they gave like a 6-foot tall trophy to the school. And then all the members of the team got a small little trophy to take home and keep. And so I have both my 7th grade and 8th grade trophy.
Well, can you imagine, Danny, can you imagine having this in your junior high school?
That's what I was trying to actually envision. So, like, how did that work? How many schools were involved, and how did they score it? Was it just who won the most races? I mean, how did that actually work out?
Whose idea was it?
It would have been a dream for me.
What faculty member said, you know what, we need to get a BMX team? Do you know any about this? How this whole thing started, Rich?
I can't, because again, I moved to Riverside, and it was something that was going on when I got here. And so I have a yearbook, and they have a picture. My 7th grade yearbook has a picture of the BMX team in it. And there's action shots that they use on it. There's a picture of me doing the tire jump out there. And so they treated it like any other sport. They had a list of the riders. There was 2 different team pictures. There was one taken at Corona, and then one for guys that didn't make it out there. They were treating it like it was any other school sport,
Shout out to the faculty member that came up with that. That is awesome, dude. That is awesome. And it was just,
I heard that, right? And I guess in Oklahoma, they're trying to do it now with some schools and have some racing. So
that'd be sweet.
That's awesome. Because I think
I don't know how it works.
I started racing around that age. I was 12 years old. So if all of a sudden they said, hey, we're going to have a BMX team, I go, wow, I could actually showcase what I could do. Where, in the other sports, I was just kind of average. Like I played baseball and basketball and stuff, but I was always average. I'm like, man, too bad there wasn't a BMX program. I would have went nuts.
Oh, it'd been crazy.
Yeah, that's what made it so awesome for me. I don't like team sports. I never played anything long enough to get good at it. So I never showed any interest in it really. So the BMX motocross thing was kind of in my blood, and I couldn't have asked for something better because I hated school. And the fact that I could go and be part of the team, and that just opened up the world to me. You know, it was awesome to be part of that.
Yes, dude. Yes. So
That's
when you
amazing.
went into high school, does that mean that you obviously you couldn't be on the junior high team anymore? So that's when you just went solo. And is that how you got an RRS, or did you? How did the whole was RS your first sponsor?
No. So my first sponsor was Moose Bike Shop, over in the UCR area, the University of Riverside.
Okay.
There's a little town center over there, and there was a bike shop there called Moose BMX, and it wasn't very big. Their logo was a cow with bicycle handlebars for horns.
That's kind of cool.
I've got a decal around somewhere. I can send you a picture of it. And they gave me a jersey. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm sponsored, right? And then after that, I got picked up by Rad Racing, Ray and Dad. And Ray Reams and his dad, Richard, had a little BMX team. There was 4 of us on it. Richard made jigs, I think it was, and did machining for SE at the time. And so when I got picked up by him, it's like, you can ride any frame you want that SE makes. And so I got a ball burnish PK Ripper with a black fork.
Nice.
And so I rode for them for a while. And then Lightning Express picked me up. And what's cool about Lightning Express, they're just a local trucking company.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Lightning Express is a trucking company. Yeah.
And the owner's grandkids race, Chris Schoonover. Probably know that name.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris was like 5 years old at the time. And Ron Schoonover, his dad, ran the team. And they picked me up. And the really cool thing about that team was they ran Norco Y and Snipes at the time. So I got free entry fees on both those tracks. So to be on a team and get paid for locals, a lot of guys don't get that little perk there. But I had to give my PK back to Brad. And they had the Schoonovers were at a national in Texas, and they won a raffle. And the prize was a Rebel General Lee frame and fork. And the team was sponsored by Maximum, but I didn't want to really ride that. And they go, well, we got this Rebel. If you want to try it? And I go, yeah, I'll ride that. So I got it, and I put all my parts from my PK onto the Rebel. And that bike, I just love that bike. I don't even think at the time I was riding it, I appreciated it for what it was. The geometry, just from what I know now, and I look back in hindsight, that was my favorite bike, probably. That thing it had a short back end, a relatively long front end, came out of the gate good. It just did everything really good.
Hey, let me. I need to. So sorry to interrupt you. Was that Larry Hess's family's company?
Correct. Yes.
Was Larry in your class too, or did you go to a different school, or what?
No, Larry was a couple years younger than me.
Okay.
He raced. We raced at all the same tracks.
Full disclosure, when I had my bike shop, I sponsored 2 of Larry's sons on my team. That's how I know.
Oh,
Larry.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, and he never told me that he was that his family had a BMX company. He never told me he raced Corona. None of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead. That's how I knew Larry.
A funny story is, we were yard selling one day. I love going to yard sales, just looking for bike stuff, right? And I typically don't even get out of the car if I don't see a bike. I like slow down, look. My wife's with me, Holly. She'll want to look, and I'm like, you want to get out? So we're up in Orange Crest, Riverside, and we see this yard sale, and I'm like, we'll get out. I don't see any bikes, and I'm looking around, and I see these 2 bikes hanging in the rafters in the garage. And I'm like, looking up at them, and I'm going, those are Maximums. There's 2 Maximums in this garage. I wonder if the guy knows what he has. I'm like, maybe I can get him. So the guy comes up, a lady comes up, and I said, hey, I go, you guys want to sell those bikes? Oh, no, they're my husband's. And I turn around, there's this guy with a beard, mustache. Richard. And I'm like, who are you? And he's like, Larry. Yes. I'm like, oh, dude. I haven't seen Larry in I don't know how long. It was pre-beard mustache. Let me just say that. We were at a yard sale at Larry's house with his Maximums hanging in the garage. And I'm thinking, this guy probably doesn't know what he has. Well, he did.
Nice. So Lightning Express. So do you leave Lightning Express and say, well, obviously you don't leave a team without having another ride, right?
Well, what happened with Lightning Express was I cracked that Rebel. So I had to get on a new bike. And they said, dude, we're sponsored by Maximum. You got to ride the bike. And I rode it. And it didn't suit me. Nice bike. They're built really well. Just the geometry didn't agree with me. And so we kind of had to part ways. They were like, we got to drop you. If you can't ride the bike, we're sponsored. And I understood. Yeah, And so I got co-sponsored by RRS. And then they picked me up factory. So that's how that went. But I had been going down to the Riverside Twin. RRS is Riverside Redland Twin. Right. And I had been going to that shop since I came to Riverside.
Right.
Jim Pratt worked there, Jumping Jimmy Pratt.
He was a BMX
test rider. I still talk to Jimmy today.
Telling me as a fan over here, bro.
I will. I'll let him know that. He was he worked at Riverside Twin. He did a lot of the work on the RS stuff. So it was just a natural kind of thing to move on to RS from there.
I maybe you're the right person to ask it because I generally don't know. Was there an RRS bike shop team and an RRS factory team, or was it just all one team? Or did people go back and forth between each team?
No, what it was, and I can't speak specifically to this with much knowledge about it, but what happened was it was originally Riverside Redland Twin team. So Kevin McNeil rode for him and was riding a JMC. You may see pictures of Kevin with the JMC. This was pre-RS frame and fork.
Got it.
Okay.
And so they were sponsoring riders before they started making frame and forks. So then that was, I guess you could call it the bike shop team.
Okay.
And then Kevin rode an RS. He ended up, being on the team when they had the frame and fork. And so I think what happened is everything moved from the bike shop team to the factory team.
Got it. Okay. That is my question. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
But I did miss a step there. Before I started riding for Rad, my brother was working at Malcolm Smith Products, and they distributed Bassett products. Okay. And he came home one day with a Bassett Star Cruiser, and he brought home a 20-inch swooper frame and fork. And so I was riding a Mongoose at the time. I got the Mongoose from Mike Miranda. I was working on my bike at home one day and one night in the garage, and Mike was over, and I had a Webco at the time with the Roger DeCoster fork, and this Webco had cracks all over it. And this was during the junior high school BMX stuff. And I needed a new frame, and I had a red line stem with the 4 clamps. Yeah. And Mike really liked that stem. And Mike's like, dude, I want that stem. I'm like, well, I need a frame. And he goes, dude, I got a Mongoose. I'm like, okay. I'm not necessarily a big Mongoose fan, but hey, I'll take it. And I remember I talked to Mike about it not long ago. I go, remember someone cut the brake bridge out of that? And he goes, no, it was a coaster brake bike. It never had one. Okay.
It was
Because
a 76.
what's that?
It must have been a 76 Goose.
Yeah. So I had to take 2 strips of metal and drill a hole through it and put my brake through the holes and clamp on the seat stays to put a brake on it to run a freewheel, right? So that was my brake bridge.
Just for the record, this part of your story is going to encapsulate the rest of your career on a BMX, because this is what for the people out there, this is what he does his whole life. He creates bikes, alters bikes, right? Design stuff. So that is this the first time you put your knowledge to work?
You know what? I remember I took my own training wheels off when I was a kid. When we were in Lakewood, our backyard was like an automotive junkyard. Back then, but when they bought new cars, they threw their old ones away. And my dad would take them, and he built his own buggies, and he rode motorcycles, and he was always tinkering, welding, making stuff in the backyard. And I'm grabbing tools and I'm wrenching on motors and just doing whatever I'm to fill time. And it's kind of funny. My dad, he was this type of person that he would, if he didn't have the right tool to do it, he would still figure it out. He will fix it and get it done. And so he'd work around. And I watched him for years do that. My older brother, Charles, okay, he watched the same thing. And what came out of that was fascinating. I took after my dad. I'm working on something. I don't have the right tool. I'll figure it out. I'll get something that'll work. I know what size screwdriver I can use on a 6mm Allen head. Flathead screwdriver that'll fit in there and I can tighten it down. My brother, on the other hand,
we were talking. So RRS. So Mike texted me today and said that it sounds weird today, but neither one of you guys were the fastest guys on RRS.
Oh, God.
Who was the fastest guy on RRS? Claveau? Was Claveau on?
Well, Lee Medlin was on RRS. Kevin McNeil was on RRS. Okay. If you lived in Riverside and raced BMX, at some point in time, you were probably on RRS. So, and that's the way kind of BMX is, right? You're kind of copy between rides, and you're looking for someone to get you to the next ride. And Craig was always there, willing to help.
Yeah. My favorite RRS story is about the cruiser. Could you share that cruiser story with us?
The
first 24-inch cruiser ever raced.
Yeah. So, I mean, cruiser was 26-inch wheels, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
And Craig said he looked in the rule book and it said 24-inch wheels were over. Was cruiser, but nobody was riding a 24. So he, being a Schwinn dealer, he had a Schwinn Varsity 10-speed 24-inch wheeled model. So he is going to build a BMX bike out of that. And he got 2 Univega unicycles, 24-inch, that had, I believe it was Yukai alloys on it. Because again, nobody was making 24-inch BMX rims, but they were making them for unicycles. So wow. he stripped those spokes out, put some Philwood hubs in and built them up. And he had, I think it was Cook Brothers, make him a 24-inch fork, and then all the other parts are BMX parts. So he gets this thing done, and nobody wants to ride it. Joe was riding 20-inch. He didn't want to ride cruiser. And I kind of get it. You look at it, and it doesn't really look like a BMX bike. Everybody's riding 26s. I'm at home one evening. I get a knock on the door, and it's Mike Miranda, and he's got that bike. And I'm like, oh, no way. And so, I rode it around. And anyways, Craig got a local rider, Tony McDaniels. And Tony, didn't really have a big name behind him. But hey, he'll race it. Goes to Anaheim Convention Center. It's one of these indoor tracks, wooden jumps, concrete. And he gets on this bike. He shows up. Everybody laughs at him. He ends up winning. Everybody protested. That right there changed BMX. The BMX cruiser class changed that day.
That day.
I don't think people realize what that bike did for the sport. There's a few bikes that you can say had a bigger impact on BMX than that bike right there.
That's crazy. I didn't
Because
even know.
everything went 24.
Is that confirmed?
Now, I will say this.
That was indeed the world's first 24-inch cruiser. Is that confirmed?
That was the first one raced.
Okay.
And nobody was building. And the first production cruiser was the RRS. Because they went into production immediately after that. So they were the first ones to come out with the 24-inch production BMX cruiser.
So the Mongoose Cost Cruiser, was that 26 then? That wasn't 24?
Yeah, 26.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I always just assumed they were 24s.
I know that Mongoose had they called it the 24, number 4, I think.
24.
Or something like that. The later they came out with it.
Yeah.
But it was,
Kid.
again, what's that?
It was in Karate Kid.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, last episode.
I've said that if that bike would have debuted at Corona Downhill, the class may be 26-inch wheels right now. Because Corona Downhill was a big, wide open, fast track. And I think probably 26-inch wheels would have been faster. But being on an indoor concrete track with wood jumps, that smaller bike was just a big advantage.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the gentleman that raced the bike, what was his name again?
Tony McDaniels.
No relation to Bart McDaniels.
No. Nope, no relation.
Okay, so was it you that told me that he went and raced that cruiser again outdoors and didn't do as well? Is that right?
No. I don't know Tony's history after that.
Okay.
What I was saying is, had that bike debuted on a big outdoor track like Corona Downhill, it might not have dominated like it did indoor.
Got it.
And so circumstances were, and I mean, on most BMX tracks, a 24-inch bike is faster.
Yeah. Wow, dude. So you ventured with the RRS? They got you to all the big races, right? I mean, they had a pretty healthy team. They got you places through.
Actually, when I was riding for them, I was the only rider.
Really?
And I think I think I told you this. I think I was the last factory rider for RRS. Because Craig,
that could be
at the time, Craig was team manager for Kuahara. So the owner of RRS was team managing Kuahara, and that team was Gary Ellis, Clint Miller, Lee Medlin. And so he had his hands full with that, and he was helping me out. And like I said, I think I was the only rider riding for him at the time.
Nice.
That's a stacked team. The riders you just named them, that's pretty stacked.
Craig actually, they were having those ESPN 2-lap races.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming like at the end of November, they were going to race at Burbank at the Equestrian Center.
We talked about this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So that was my first pro race.
Wow. You were in that?
And I told Craig after that I turned. And he was mad. He was like, "What?" He goes, "Dude, everybody just moved up." I said, "Yeah, I know. I just raced them." He goes, "Gary moved up. Eddie moved up." And so amateurs going to be easy. I'm like, no, it's never easy because everybody ages up. It's like there's a whole new crop of, 16-year-olds turning 17, and those guys are fast.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this. When you turn 16, when it was 16 over X, you may have raced one more year and then quit because you don't want to be that 18-year-old racing 16-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
So you either turn pro or you quit racing.
Yeah.
And so I was at 18, and I'm like, I'm not going to quit, so I'm going to turn pro. And that race was here. That's why I used to go on a pro practice when I was an amateur, because I want to see how I, stacked up against these guys.
Yeah, dude, share that story. That's funny.
Okay, so Lancaster, I was riding I was actually a privateer. I wasn't privateer. I was being co-sponsored at the time by RRS. And I'm racing 17 over expert. And it wasn't the first time I went on a pro practice. I've kind of always pushed that limit there. So I'm out on practice. I'm riding. I've done a few gates. I get up on the gate. I'm balancing, getting ready for the start. And I feel something messing with my bike. And I'm like, what's going on? So I look. And this guy grabs my back wheel. Get off the gate. And I look, and it's Harry Larry. And I'm like going, leave me alone. He goes, no, you're not pro. Get off the gate. I go, it's not even a full gate. I'm not taking anybody's spot.
Yeah.
And so we get into this exchange, arguing back and forth. I'm not leaving. I'm not having him intimidate me. Leave me alone. We're fine. Well, the starter saw what was going on, got involved, and booted me out.
Oh.
So I got kicked off the gate. And Harry, he just wasn't going to have me out there and practice with him, I guess.
And you were 18 or 19 or whatever, 18?
I was 17.
17. So you were a little kid, man.
Yeah. There's actually, I think I showed you a picture. There's a picture that was on the USA BMX photo gallery. A picture of me out there in that pro practice.
Yeah.
And I'm out front with a bunch of riders behind me. And so I'm like, I wasn't holding anybody up. I wasn't getting in anybody's way. So anyways, yeah, that was my little tiff I had with Harry. And it was kind of funny because Kevin McNeil, he was a friend of the family's. My brother hung out with him. They rode motorcycles together. I would go over Kevin's house, and it was the BMX part of the BMX community. So my parents knew him, and they kept up on what was going on in the sport. And there was always these clashes between Kevin and Harry. And so we kind of weren't big Harry Larry fans to begin with, because it would always seem like it was Kevin and Harry getting into it. There's the story of Kevin at Azusa picking Harry Larry up over his head and throwing it down the start hill.
You mean like a wrestling move? Like just picked him up and threw him? Holy crap.
I mean, Kevin was 6'2", and he worked out with weights, and he was big. And Harry was, I don't know, maybe 5'6", 5'7". So it's not like he was a big guy. And I think those two were always getting into it.
Yeah.
But Kevin got into it with a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, that's like you just picking me up and throwing me. It could totally.
Yeah. I would throw you. I'd set you down easily. Ginger.
Yeah.
We went to my grandson, John. That when you kept calling me John, I'm thinking, I knew it was because of the photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, John. Yeah.
My grandson John's more famous than I am, so I was like, okay, I can deal with that. But we went to a national in Vegas, and my mom went, and I mean, she's like 85 years old, sitting in the stands watching races, and she hears Harry Larry, and she's like, he's still racing?
Yeah,
like, Harry's still racing.
He was
So it's kind of funny that my mom knows the name.
Nice. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm bogarting all your questions, dude.
No, it's okay. I've been getting us ready for the trivia anyway.
Yeah, so Danny's not uninterested. He's just busy right now doing questions. So I guess dude, there's so many things that we could do that. We could do 3 hours, 4 hours easily. But what I'm fascinated about is a couple of weeks ago, in one of the trivia challenges, Danny asked me a question about what GPV stood for, and I got the answer right. And then the bonus question was, who won the ESPN, right, Danny? Who won the ESPN race? And I said Scott Breithaupt because I thought that he was still riding at that time, but it turned out that he was announcing it. And then I met you the other at Dirty Fest, and you were actually in that race, right?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yep.
So how? I mean, okay.
Tommy Brackens won that race, by the way.
Yes,
He did.
yeah,
that was the answer to the question.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what I don't remember is whose brainchild was it? How did it evolve, and how did it get to that point where it was on ESPN? Did you start GPV from the very beginning, or did you come in after it was already a thing? Or what was the whole background on it, if you know?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I know. Okay, there was two kind of scenes. There was like a mid to late 80s, and then there was around 2000. It kind of died off and then came back around 2000.
Really?
So
Okay,
my involvement was Mike Miranda. We used to go to a local hill here in Riverside called Mount Rubidoux. And Mount Rubidoux was just like a scenic out overlook. It had a road up that you could drive your car on, and then a road down. And we would go up there and ride our bikes. And the down road was a lot steeper than the up road, so we rode it all the time. And it was fun, riding on paved, going downhill. There was a part on it where there was a bridge that went over the up road, and then it dropped off, and we would come down and hit that thing at about 40 miles an hour and just lift off the end of the bridge. And so the hill's going down and you're going up. It was like a ski jump. And then the steepest part of the hill had this hairpin, as it seems to they always put those things right in the place that, and so anyways, we would ride that all the time. And Mike said,
regular BMX bikes.
Regular BMX bikes,
Okay.
Correct. So Mike said, hey, we go up into the mountains and ride Highway 18 and Old Waterman Canyon. And so we're like, really? He goes, yeah, it's so much fun. We're like, okay. So my brother, again, he's older than me. He has this Lincoln with suicide doors.
Yeah.
Nice.
And a huge trunk. My father-in-law would say it was a 10-body trunk.
Mm-hmm.
We put our bikes in the trunk, and we go to San Bernardino, go up Waterman Road. We park. There's a park at the bottom of Highway 18 that we park the car. We grab our bikes, helmets, and then we go and hitchhike to the top. So there was Mike, Charlie, this guy that we went to school with that rode BMX, my friend Kenneth, myself, and my brother. So there's 5 of us with our bikes and our helmets hitchhiking to the top. You can't make this stuff up. This guy in this truck pulls over. We all load up and go to the top. And we're sitting in the back of the truck and I've been to the mountains before, but I've never been going up a mountain to come down it on a bike. And I'm just going, we're all like getting psyched out. This is like insane. We're going to ride down this thing. And anyways, we get up, we get out, we start coming down. My brother's on a 26-inch wheel, this Star Cruiser. We're all on 20-inch wheel bikes. And you start off, braking, dragging your brakes, and then you lit up, you're sitting up, and you start to go a little bit faster. Suddenly you're off the brakes, you're tucked down behind your number plate. You might have one arm behind you to get more aerodynamic. you just start, that speed is just addictive. You just start wanting to go faster and faster. We come off Highway 18 to 4-lane highway. We turn off at Old Waterman Road. And Old Waterman Road is a 2-lane road. It's steeper and it's amongst the trees. And so it's a totally different experience. And you just get way more sensation of speed because everything's zinging by. And we were told, the S's, Mike warned us about the S's. Again, none of us have done it before, but Mike had. And so
S's, man.
we're like, yeah, okay. So we're going down. My brother's in the lead on a big bike, and suddenly he slows up. There's the sign for the S's. He slows up, and we just go flying by him. My friend Kenneth got a flat, so we left him behind to get his bike fixed, and we just kept going. It's kind of, I feel bad about that. But anyway, so it's Mike, Charlie, and I coming down into the S's, and we're dicing. We come into the top turn, and it's a blind turn. And as soon as we come around the turn, the hill drops drastically.
Right.
I mean, it gets really steep, goes into an off-camber 180. And I mean, you're doing everything you can to start to slow down. You're grabbing brakes, you're sitting up, and the three of us drift out, hitting each other. We all three crash. My brother comes around the turn, and there's bikes and bodies everywhere. One of us was upside down on a rock, and I have a flat tire. I had gotten some brand new Array of 7X gold anodized rims for Christmas the day before. This was the day after Christmas, and I wrecked my rim, and we all crashed. Well, the scene kind of takes off. Mike's part of the Turnbow. I think it was Turnbow Canyon. There was some stuff that the magazines did with some of the freestyle guys. Woody, I think, rode. Martin and Eddie Viola, they rode. And Mike was, there's that magazine picture of Mike tucked down doing the peace sign, I think it was.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And then they did, the Tramway was the first organized race in Palm Springs. So I heard about it and I'm like, oh, cool. So I had this, I think it was a Performer that I had, a frame that was a bad chrome job, and the shop just gave it to me. So I built this Performer up. I put a banana seat on it. I had a moto mag that I put on it, and I made a metal plate, sheet metal, that I covered the back wheel with to make it a disc, to make it more aerodynamic. And I go to race this race, and there's guys there. Dan Hannebrink's there with this full-on streamliner. There's only one class. It wasn't a fair class, unfair class. And that was a really fast road. And that was the first organized race. And I remember riding up in the back of the truck going up to the top. And I was in the truck with Martin and Eddie. And they were going, you know what? This is getting too serious. This is not what this, because it wasn't Turnbow Canyon. I mean, it was fast. And I think, I want to say, Curb Dog, he had done some bunny hop and landed on Hannebrink on a streamliner.
Whoa.
Going really fast. And so some guys weren't using, all their discretion wisely. I didn't have a fairing, and so I was like, well, I'm going to just draft off somebody that has a fairing. The speeds never bugged me because I ride motorcycles. I road raced motorcycles at one point. And at the time I had a Yamaha 600 that I rode every day back and forth to work. I commuted on. So the speed never bugged me. And I transferred out. I don't think I made the final because, again, my plan was to sit on someone's back wheel. And so Kevin Hall had a fairing. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to draft Kevin. And so I'm drafting off of him, and we come into this technical section with some turns, and I pass him.
Oh,
And we come out of that section, and I'm like, okay, watch for Kevin, watch for Kevin. But by the time he comes by, he's got so much speed, I can't catch his draft. He just goes by too fast with that fairing. So I don't think I made the main at that, but I was at that first race, and then they had started doing the GPV thing, and they had another organized race at GMR, Glendora Mountain Road, and that I met Tommy Brackens through Gravity Bike. I didn't know. I knew who Tommy was, obviously racing BMX, but I didn't personally know him. And I remember he worked at a shop out kind of Glendora out that way. And I went in and met him and talked to him. And I tell you, there is not a nicer guy in the world than Tommy Brackens. He had taken this fairing. Everyone had the same fairing. There was a guy in LA that was making these fairings, and everyone got the same fairing. And Tommy had taken cardboard and extended the fairing back and made them way more aerodynamic, and you're way more closed in. And I was like, dude, that is really cool. He goes, and I don't know if either I asked him if he could do it to my bike or he offered to do it. But next thing I know, he's in my living room hooking me up, working on my bike, cutting the cardboard and doing all the work. And I'll tell you, I'm a very competitive person. And I find these little tips that make me faster. I'm not readily to share them. But Tommy's the kind of guy that I think he wants to beat you heads up. And
right.
if he'll help you go faster to do it, because I ended up being one of his main rivals. And we were great friends. Our kids played together. We raced a race in Mammoth, and my kids and his kids played together, and we hung out at the X Games. I mean, he's just a great guy. He really is. So that was the early scene. GMR was this. I think they make film car commercials there because it's got over 100 turns in a couple miles, and it's on a ridge. And so planes or helicopters could film cars on this ridge. But it's not a fast road. And I say not fast, I'm talking 50 miles an hour, which is fast. If you think about gravity bikes,
on a bike, that's fast.
there is nothing sensible about it. I mean, it is, first of all, you're running BMX, you're on a 20-inch bike, 45-pound tire, PSI, that you're pumping up to 80, 90 pounds. And there's no speed rating on them. And if you're on Highway 18 or Waterman, you're doing close to 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
I never exaggerated the gravity bike speeds because 40 on a BMX bike is fast. And gravity bike speeds are fast enough without exaggerating. People will tell you that across the ridge at GMR, they're doing 70 miles an hour. No, you're doing 40, 50 miles an hour, which is fast on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
So that was the early.
Is that the same fairing bike that you crashed on in that video that you sent me? Is that the same thing? Same
Yeah.
fairing?
So what they had done is they had organized a race at Cold Grade outside of Escondido, and Vision Sportswear sponsored it. ESPN had this show that was every weekend they would do a different type of bicycle riding. And on that particular show that they did the gravity bike thing, they also did trials. So one extreme to the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what a lot of people don't know is in the morning at Cold Grade, Guinness Book of World Records was there. And they did a segment. And we did a race for them that was just on the straight part of the road. Because the Guinness Book of Record back then on a bike, it was 60 miles an hour or something. So they actually they aired a show with us riding, and it was at Cold Grade earlier that morning. I had done some work on my bike. What's that?
Do you remember who got the record?
You know what? It never got recorded.
Wow.
I think Dan might have won because he had his full streamliner.
Hannabrink.
Yeah. What they started doing when we got to, by that time in the sport, they had an unfair class, a limited class, which was your front wheel was uncovered with a fairing, and then an unlimited that had a covered front wheel. And you had longer wheelbase, a bunch of different things were different.
Yeah.
And so Dan had this motorcycle that he used in a gas mileage competition back in the 70s when the whole gas crisis was going on. And so he adapted that fairing to a bicycle for the gravity bike thing.
Wow.
So,
and what I had done is I found. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I'm thinking out loud. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So going into the Cold Grade race, those fairings on the bottom were pretty flat, but they kind of curved around for the front wheel. And we used to go to this place that made the bubbles that went onto the fairings, like the motorcycle fairing bubble thing.
Yeah.
And we'd go in their trash and we would get seconds out of the trash. And they just had little blimps in them. And I remember they built these things in a big bubble, big dome, and they could cut two out of it. You got one off this side, one off this side, and you got two shields, right? And I seen that centerpiece that was left over, and so I took it home. I cut it and I put it on the bottom of on that flat part on that fairing. And there's a hill in Riverside I used to go do the test on, and I had a cycle computer, and it was like a 50-mile-an-hour hill, and I picked up 3 miles an hour by putting this thing on. And it was funny. I ran JMC forks, right? Because what more aerodynamic than JMC forks?
Yep.
I had taken sewing thread, and taped it. Like I taped 3 or 4 pieces on each fork leg going from top to bottom. And then I got a fan and put in front of my bike and I turned the fan on. And those things got all tangled and they did all these weird things. And then I slid that piece in and they all just flowed. I mean, they just went it came down just like that. And wow, look at that. I mean, it was a real visual of what that airflow did. So I did that to my bike, and then I'm a late adapter to things. There's some things I'm like ahead of everybody else, and there's other things I'm slow to adapt to. Coaster brake, I probably rode longer than most people. Front brake, I know I rode longer than most people. But because of my motorcycle background, there was things I could do with a front brake that actually helped me.
When you were on ESPN, did you have a front and back brake when you crashed into the mountain?
Yes.
No coaster brakes, but pit bulls or whatever, right?
Actually, I think on that bike, I might have had a 990 on the back.
Okay.
And I think it was a pit bull on the front.
Can you take us through that ride or that race? Was that the first race of the day? Was that the final? When you were on with Tommy and Dan? Take us through that race, bro.
Okay, so I added weight to my bike at that race. The bike could weigh 50 pounds. I always liked a light bike because of the way they handle. But I'm done losing to these guys with their weighted down bikes. And so I put on extra weight on my bike. I did that modification, and the fair class goes first. There's a motorcycle filming from the road. The guy sitting on backwards with the camera, kind of filming it. So they get done. They start our race, our first heat race. And we start off. I'm in the lead. And in practice, there was only one corner on the track that was kind of difficult. And I was able to take it with no brakes. But I needed the whole road to do it. So we're coming down the in the race, and the guy on the motorcycle is blocking my way. I can't really see where I'm going. I'm trying to move around, and he's kind of moving with me. Well, we get down close to that turn, and they accelerate away from me to get some space. And we come into this turn. I swing way outside. I come in because, again, I need the whole road. I come in to clip the apex, and they're right there. And we both drift out. And I go into the side of the mountain, go over the handlebars, through my bubble, and just tumbling down the road.
Whoa.
And
how fast, Rich? 80, 70?
well, so I get up. The guys on the motorcycle have to finish the race. As soon as the last bike crosses, they go turn around and go right up back up the hill. They're the first ones to me. And I'm up walking around by this time. By the way, my bike came across the road and took out Dan Hannebrink's front end. And Dan went down also.
Whoa.
So I said to the guy on the motorcycle, I go, hey, by the way, how fast were you going when I came by you? He said between 85 and 90 when I passed him. And I didn't just crawl past him.
You flew by him, dude.
I went past him at a pretty good clip.
And for everyone that's watching this, I'm going to link the video of this race to the description because it's insane. Even the Scott was like, "Wow, Richard flies by the right." Doesn't he comment about that? Like, dude, he flew by.
Yeah. Scott Brydout was doing the announcing.
And you were a computer salesman by day. And a GPV, what
telemarketer. They called him telemarketer.
What I like about that is they interview me afterwards, and at the bottom it says Richard crash victim. But here's the funny thing. So in that crash, there was a crash in the race before with the unfair guys. They had a helicopter filming also. And they showed the helicopter view of the crash of the race before us, okay? In my race, if you remember, they have a pan shot away from everything. That's the helicopter, okay? So the helicopter is still filming. In fact, the helicopter, I think, showed Tommy, because Tommy was in second. And I think the helicopter showed Tommy going on down the road to finish.
Yeah, like he was
but you know what the helicopter doesn't show? Helicopter doesn't show my crash.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think the legal department said, because it's too obvious what happened. You know what I mean?
You walked away,
It
right?
showed, if you watch it from the view of the motorcycle, you just see me going by, right? And I'm already down when the motorcycle comes back by me. But that helicopter view shows everything. It shows where I was, where I came in, and it showed how we both drifted out. And I guarantee you, somebody at ESPN says we are not airing that. Because why wouldn't they? They aired the other crash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And
that wasn't even the final. That was just a heat race.
That was a heat race.
And then Tommy was on to win the whole thing.
Both forks, I'm running the JMC fork. Both fork blades sheared off the steer tube.
Oh,
I still have the steer tube.
Wow.
But that's how bad that impact was, is both fork blades sheared off. And I'll try to make it quick. I had done a road race school out of Willow Springs. To race out of Willow Springs, you got to take this road race school the day before. And road racers wear leather suits, right? And they tell you, hey, when you fall, you're sliding. And like, if you fall at 120, stop. Don't try to stand up until you stop, which sounds obvious, right? Yeah. Because the problem is your reaction time takes time to adjust. So when you're going 30 on the streets, you go on the freeway going 60, to begin with, it feels fast. So your reaction time catches up. You got off the freeway, and you're going 30, you feel like you're going slow until your reaction time catches up. So when you crash at 60, 70, when you get going, when you're slowing down to 30, you think you might be able to get up and walk, right? Well, I remember specifically, I'm tumbling down the road one way, kind of like head over heels. And then I got this thought in my head. I'm like, why am I still tumbling down the road? And I'm now going more like, you know, sideways tumbling. And I think what happened is I thought I was going slow enough to get up. And when I put my feet out in front of me, I still may have been doing 25, 30, plus.
Oh, wow.
Because I do remember I'm now suddenly tumbling a different direction. And that's the only thing I could surmise is that's what I did. I tried to get up, but get this, I was wearing BMX gear. So I went down on this asphalt road, and to think my polyester jersey didn't offer much protection.
No chest protector, nothing. No.
What's that?
No chest protector, nothing like that.
Nope, just BMX gear.
Wow.
And
that's crazy. You're lucky to be alive.
And how old were you when this happened? You were in your mid-20s, right?
yeah. I was probably, my son was almost 2, so I was like 26, 27.
And your wife let you do this. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, she's always supported me in everything I did.
Yes.
I couldn't ask for a more supportive wife. So that was kind of, the gravity bike thing fizzled out after that.
You were the death nail, dude. No, it's like, I'm not doing that anymore. Forget that.
Yeah, maybe. But what happened was, what brought us back was, you remember Street Loos?
Yeah.
Those guys on those 6-foot-long skateboards? Well, that had gotten really big. Well, they were riding on the same stuff we were riding on. We would show up sometimes at Glendora Mountain Road, GMR, and they would be there, riding. And so somebody said, hey, why don't we bring the bikes in? We're already here. We're already set up. Now we can just bring the bikes in. There's more entry fee. You get more people coming. And so it was just kind of like a natural fit. And that's how we got into the X Games.
Did you go back to ride?
Yeah. They had arranged a race in Mammoth that was going to be with the mountain bike or with the luge guys. And it was an invitational. And so they were looking for riders to invite. And Tommy said, hey, ask Richard. And I get a phone call and, hey, we're doing this. And, this has a potential to go all the way to the X Games. And like, oh, cool. So I built up what I had and went to Mammoth and raced that race at Mammoth. And then there were new fairings. And so I built up a new bike. I built a full suspension Rumblefish. Had a rear shock, front shock. I put a spin wheel on the front, disc on the back.
And how old were you? Your 40s, probably.
38. And then we got into the X Games. And then after the X Games, Fox was going to have their own kind of X Games thing, Fox Sports. And it was invitational. 16 riders, I think, were getting invited. $60,000 purse. And so I was on that list to go. So I started, going into the hills and practicing and whatnot. And it was a really hot morning in August. I get loaded up the car, put my bike on the back, wife and kids in the car, go up Highway 18. I unload, I'm coming down, and I'm about 8 miles into my run. My back tire pops. I'm going 60, 70 miles an hour. And it's amazing how quick your mind works. Because I'm down tucked behind my fairing, going along, I'm dropping off this car, and I hear this pop sound. And I'm like, what was that? Oh, I got a flat. Well, next thing is, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not down yet. Gumball tires don't have a sidewall. And so I go, okay, just start easy on the brakes and do everything slowly start moving over. And then the bike stepped out. It swapped one way, came back the other, high-sided me off. First thing hit the ground was my left hip.
Oh, gosh.
I crashed. My bike's 100 yards away from me. Cars are pulling over. My wife is well behind me, sees all these cars pulled over. She knows something bad happened.
Oh man, she thinks the worst, dude.
Yeah, and she comes walking up, and I'm like, yeah, I broke my leg somehow. I broke something. And so they called 911, got me out of there in the ambulance. I broke my femoral head off. My femur broke completely off, displaced fracture, which led to a total hip replacement.
Wow.
And then Fox Sports never had their X Games. It was all for naught. That's usually my life story.
Almost. You miss it by that much, man.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
And I will say this: when I die, my guardian angel is going to be beat up.
What were you saying, Danny?
Oh, I was going to say, after hearing all this, no interest in doing any sort of gravity-powered bike stuff. Nothing. I don't want anything.
I will tell you, there is nothing like it. Coming down Highway 18 with no motor, no pedals, no drivetrain, on a BMX bike where your back is like 3-4 feet off the ground, you're tucked behind a fairing, and you're actually beating cars to the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is nothing like it. I mean, I'm coming up, drafting off cars. People are looking in their mirrors, watching. On the slower parts of the road, people will speed by, pull over. They get out with their kids and watch you go by. People are cheering you on. I got to the bottom of Highway 18 one time, waiting for my ride. This minivan pulls up with this lady driving. She looked like a grandma, and the kids in the car. The thing's rocking. The kids that got their arms up in the air, yeah, cheering me on, and grandma's honking the horn. And
Nice.
I tell you, there is an experience like no other.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
You mentioned Rumblefish. Tell us about what is Rumblefish. How did that come about? Were you doing Rumblefish when you crashed? When you broke your leg? What was going on with Rumblefish, bro?
Well, I hadn't raced BMX in a while, and I decided I want to get back into racing. So I got reclassified to amateur cruiser. And before I quit racing, the older cruiser classes were just a bunch of dads. And so I thought, it'll be easy. I'll go out there and I'll race, these dads. And so I get reclassified. I'd been away from the track for a while. I come back, and it's all the old guys I raced against in pro. And I'm like, what happened to all those dads? Well, they were 26 to 30 was filled up of all these ex-pro racers. 31 and over were the dads. And so I'm getting ready for the Coal Canyon National, and I'm out at Coal Canyon. I had my RRS I put together for it. About three weeks in, well, I get my speed back. I'm feeling pretty good. I put a spindle on, brand new spindle. 3 weeks later, I jumped the table going into the second turn at Coal Canyon, and I overjumped it and landed in the berm, and the spindle broke. My leg hit the ground, and I broke my tib fib.
Damn.
So I hadn't broken a bone at that point. And so I'm like, they load me up back to a truck to take me to the hospital. And on the way to the hospital, I'm going, I still want to be involved in BMX, but how can I do it? And I came up with doing T-shirts. You know what? When I worked at Malcolm's, I did all the silk screening there on the T-shirts. They sold a ton of motocross shirts. There was nobody really doing that much. I mean, Marietti had Hot Shots, and he was kind of doing it. And so I had a street bike. I sold it. I bought a bunch of T-shirts. A friend of mine let me use his screen press. And I was going to do a line of shirts for BMX. And I was trying to come up with a name. And at the time, I had a saltwater fish tank. and I was going through different fish names, and I didn't find anything. I thought, what are fighting fish? And somehow I started thinking about fighting fish, and then the rumble fish thing came about.
Nice, dude.
And so I started printing up shirts, and then my wife and I got in contact with ABA. We got on their vendors list, and we started going to nationals selling T-shirts. And that's what got Rumblefish started, was just the T-shirts to begin with.
Nice.
Wow, dude. I've always had this question about starting your own BMX company. And when I talked to Tim Lilthorpe, I kind of asked him this question, but I don't think he understand. I think he kind of missed what I was asking. When you start your own BMX company, in regards to liability, plans, all these different things, insurance, did you do any of that? I mean, people at that time, at that time, you're shaking your head already. You know what I'm going to ask. At that time, the liability of starting your own BMX, your own bicycle company must have been enormous. I mean, no one ever thought about it back then, huh? No one ever thought about it.
Well, I mean, this was like 89 is when I started doing the shirts. I came up with a frame design in my head. I got this. I don't do much on paper. I do everything in my head, and I can see things so clearly. And it's I get kind of I can see issues that are going to come up before I actually, as I'm planning it in my head, and I can almost see the complications and work them out. So I had this frame design all worked out. And I was working at Malcolm's at the time. We had a mountain bike program. They had a guy there that came from Fisher that did blueprints. So he did a professional blueprint for me. I told him what I wanted, what the geometry was going to be. He drew it all up. And that's what got the frame going. And all that time, though, when I'm building these frames, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking liability.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, man, somebody crashes and hurts themselves. And yeah, the thought is there, but you can't, for the expense of it, I mean, that would stop most people from doing it. That probably was what stops people from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time that you just kind of roll the dice, you know, you kind of just like, you know, I'm going to do it and take my chances, I guess.
Okay, so Rumblefish made cruisers, 20s, minis, tandems. What frames did Rumblefish end up making? What models?
What's that?
What models did Rumblefish end up making? You made a cruiser, you made a 20.
So I started. No, what happened was I started with a 20. And I had issues with the 20, I think I told you about, with chain clearance.
Yeah.
And that kind of delayed the 20 a little bit. But I knew, because of the geometry of a cruiser, the cruiser has a lower bottom bracket height compared to axle height, that the chain issue wasn't going to be a problem on the 24. So I immediately built a 24 prototype. And the 20 got kind of put aside until we could work out the chain issue. And I built the 24, and basically I did all the testing on both bikes. I mean, I'm here in Riverside. Twin Palms was just down the street. So I was riding that twin. I was racing it.
You weren't a young man. You were in your probably late 20s, right?
Yeah. So this was 90. When the first the first two prototypes got done in around 1990.
How many? Richard Kerr with Rumblefish. Richard was telling us about how many about what he made and how he made the Rumblefish and that type of thing. Go ahead, Richard. You got cut off.
All right. So I had the 20 and the 24. We did the redesign on the 20 to get the chain clearance. The bike ended up in BMX Plus, the exotic BMX section, where they had a bunch of prototype stuff. And they got a big response from the bike. I come home one day, and on my answering machine was a message from High Torque Publications. Hey, I think it was Mark. was his name. Hey, call us back. We want to talk about your bike. And so I call them back, and they're like, hey, are you going to go production with those? And I'm like, well, that's the plan. And they go, well, we want to do a test whenever you're ready. And I'm like, okay. So I took the information down. The funny thing about that phone call was, yeah, I wanted to go production, but I didn't have any plan at the time of how to get there. And that phone call pushed forward the production.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like, it was one of those things that who knows how long it would have sit in the prototype stage. But when they wanted to do a test, I'm like, okay, we got to build a bike. And so the first bike that got the redesign went to the magazine. And let me tell you something. I hadn't been involved in a magazine before like this. And so I talked to them and I said, hey, yeah, you know, they wanted a complete bike to test. Okay. So I'm just making, at the time, I'm just making a frame. I don't even have a fork design yet. And so I had talked to them and I said, you know, hey, if you got a problem if I call manufacturers and get parts and tell them I'm going to be in the magazine? They go, yeah, no problem. So I call Tangi, and they made the switchblade fork. I don't know if you remember that fork.
Yeah.
It had just come out. I didn't have a fork yet. And so I called them up from the builder shop, and I said, hey, I'm going to be in BMX Plus. They're going to do a test on my bike. I told them about what magazine it was in. I said, I don't have a fork. Can you guys, you know, help me out? And well, we'll see what we can do. I leave that shop, get home, and again, my answering machine, there's a message, call us back. And I called them back, and they sent me out a fork right away. So I pick up the phone, I call Seattle Bikes. Hey, can you guys, you know, I'm building a bike up for BMX Plus, and I, you know, tell them the story. I get flight cranks in the mail to me. I call Hutch. Hutch sends me hubs and pedals, and he sent me some stuff. I mean, I'm calling around the industry building this bike up, which would have been probably a $1,500 bike at the time. Getting comp all these parts because I'm saying building a bike for BMX Plus. And I got the bike done. I told them I need that bike back because I know a lot of times they'll keep the test bikes.
Yeah.
And
You ain't keeping this thing, man.
I met them out at Twin Palms, gave them the bike, and they took off. I thought they were going to do the test there at Twin, but they took the bike and left. And they got Rich Bartlett, you know, Rich the Butcher Bartlett,
Yeah.
probably the biggest test rider they have. And so I'm on pins and needles, you know, how's this thing going to go? You know, I've ridden it tons, but it's not, you've seen the design, it's not something that is common. And so they did the test and wrote it up, put it on the cover, called it the most radical BMX bike ever. I always tell people it's still ever. They said it's the raddest BMX bike ever, and it's still ever.
Wrapping up the Rumblefish portion of your career, it's still happening. Well, it's still happening, right? No.
What's that?
Are you still actually making Rumblefish? Or no way. No.
No. What I'm doing now is I'm learning to build frames myself, and so I do mitering and tube fitting. All the cutting, I spec it out with the tubing, buy all the tubing. I have a friend of mine that does welding. And so I built some stuff up with my grandkids. I built them a side hack. Holly wanted a tandem. So I built a tandem for us.
And all this stemmed from an online customer, sales online sales guy. That was a joke, right?
Yeah, telemarketer. But, you know, I also built Project Featherweight for BMX Plus, the world's lightest pro bike. I built that up, and that bike right there, the Rumblefish Cruiser, that got put in Bicycle Guide magazine and Hot Tubes, which is a really prestigious section of the magazine. They had never done or since had done a story on a BMX bike.
Oh, wow.
The Rumblefish was the bike, the only BMX bike they ever did a story on.
If somebody runs across a Rumblefish at one of these proverbial yard sales or estate sales, how many Rumblefishes were manufactured?
Between 20 and cruiser, I always tell people it's between 40 and 50
Total.
is what I believe it was. And a lot of people question me on that, but I'm always coming across a bike I'd forgotten about. I sent 2 to Europe. I got a message not long ago through BMX Museum, a guy that wrote me this letter about, I'm in Mississippi. My dad contacted you and bought a frame fork from you. It was, it was the best possession I ever owned. It got stolen. I'm looking for another one,
Oh, wow.
And I forgot about that guy. I've seen 2 on eBay that I don't know where I don't remember anything about them. And it's kind of funny because I had one guy stop me and, dude, I got a Rumblefish. I took it and had it chrome. I hate chrome. And everything I did was powder coating. And he took his and got it chromed. And so when I start thinking about that 40 or 50 number, it's probably about right. I had gotten funding.
It's a very rare frame.
I'd gotten funding to build another 50, and I had bought all the tubing. I had front ends done, and then I lost the funding. What bummed me out about that was, had I known I wasn't going to get that it was going to dry up like it did, I would have built 20. Because with that money, I could have built 20 and then rolled it over and built more after that. Wow. But yeah, and that's kind of what happened is I just lost financing for it, and I had to go to work and provide for my family.
It sucks how that family gets in the way of bicycle dreams, dude.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that loop tail.
Yeah.
That's a frame fork I built recently.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
That's Project Pepperweight.
Yeah.
That's the 18-pound, 6-ounce pro bike.
Holy crap.
Whoa, let me get back here. Sorry, guys.
What you're still in Riverside?
Yep.
What would you be opposed to me coming out one day and documenting those bikes for the people, for the viewers?
Please do.
That'd be sick, dude.
I've built probably 15 frames, 16 frames.
That'd be nice.
I've got them all still.
That'd be nice. All right, man. Richard, thank you very much for sharing that story, all those stories with us. And rest assured to everybody out there that I hope that this will not be the first time Richard comes on the show. He has stuff that, like I said, he has stories that he can keep us here for days. But I would like to do the trivia, Richard. Do you have a couple minutes to do some trivia with me and beat me and show me how much knowledge you have?
I'll do the trivia, but I don't think I'm going to impress anybody.
So at this particular point, as we all know, Danny's been working on some questions while we've been talking, but he is good listening at the same time. So Danny, at this particular point, I'm going to give the podcast over into your safe hands.
All right, man, that was a lot. I got lost in his story, and I looked at the timer and go, damn, we've been talking almost an hour and a half.
This could be our longest episode ever.
Yeah. All right, so this is how it works, Richard. We're going to do two. That's okay. We're going to do 2 categories, BMX questions, and then we have pop culture questions from the 80s. So you could pick which one you want to do. Like, I'll do a BMX question or I'll do pop culture. And then I'll give you the question. If you answer it correctly, it's your point. It's pretty simple. If you miss it, Kevin can steal it. If Kevin misses, you can steal his, and we'll just go back and forth. That's it. It's a pretty simple game.
All right.
All right.
Virtual handshake, Richard. Virtual handshake. Okay, good. All right.
Let's make sure your audio is good. Richard, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. You got me?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's much clearer. Okay.
All right, fire when ready.
All right, Richard, you go first. You're the guest. So do you want to do a BMX question or a pop culture question? What do you want to do?
Yes.
Okay, he said BMX, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to name 3 different sets of wheels, and I need you to tell me what company made them. You with me, Richard?
I got you.
All right. Okay, so there's the 7X, the, let's see, Z wheel, and the Tough wheel. Can you tell me who made those wheels?
Araya. You said 7X. That was Araya. Z-Rim is Skyway is the Tough wheel.
You got that one.
And ACS.
Perfect. Got all 3.
I thought I was
I ran 2 of those. I never had the Tough wheel.
There you go. You never had a Tough wheel. All the exotic stuff you have, you never had a Tough wheel.
Nope.
All right, man. So good start for Richard. All right, what do you think, Kevin? What do you want to do? All right. Okay, the following riders were teammates for what factory team? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Eric Group, Travis Chipperis, Sam Ariano, Shelby James.
Mongoose.
Okay, you got that one. Okay, so that was an easy one. I feel like I asked that question before, Kevin, and I go, did I ask that? Okay, what do you want to do, Richard?
I'll stay with BMX.
All right, I'm gonna list off 4 different factory teams, and I want you to tell me 2 of those teams that Eric Group was a member of. Got it?
Okay.
Mongoose, Diamondback, Profile, and Hutch. Which 2 teams did Eric race for?
Mongoose and Profile.
Perfect. All right, looking good. 2-1. Richard said he couldn't play trivia, so he's kind of swearing up.
I call BS, man. It's not very hard questions, though, but yeah, he got him right. Hey,
they get harder as you go. I always start off the little softball ones, and then they get a little. Yeah.
Pop culture.
What city did the Golden Girls take place in? Was it Palm Springs, Atlanta, or Miami?
See, that's an interesting question, dude. I think I know the answer. I think it was Miami.
You got it. It was Miami.
But the house was really located in L.A. Did you know that?
Was it really?
Yeah, it wasn't in Miami.
That surprised me.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So it's 2-2. Looking good, guys. Kevin, if you tie Richard, man, I'm not doing this anymore. All right, Richard, what do you got?
I'll stick with BMX.
Finish this company's name. Vision blank blank.
Sportswear.
Oh, Kevin?
Streetwear.
Streetwear. All right, Kevin gets the steal.
I jumped in too quick on that one.
And
It never happens.
didn't they sponsor one of the GPV races, Richard? Come
That's
on.
what I'm just sitting here thinking. Yeah.
You had a premature answer.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about Betty White.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, your turn. You stole that. So 3-2. Pop culture. Okay. Which soda company created an uproar by changing its formula in the 1980s?
Coca-Cola.
You know what it was called?
New Coke versus Classic.
Yeah, that was horrible, man. Richard, you said you liked drinking Coke earlier. Do you remember New Coke?
Yeah, but I'm a Pepsi guy.
Oh,
Pepsi's the choice of the new generation.
There you go. All right, Kevin. Richard, it's actually Richard's turn now. Go ahead, Richard. What do you want to do?
I'll try pop culture.
Okay, what was the name of the family in Family Ties? Was it the Keatons, the Seavers, or the Tanners?
Keaton's.
You got it. It was the Keatons. There you go. Looking good.
In Family Ties?
Yeah, Alex P. Keaton. Remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he wore Vision streetwear.
It's Vision Streetwear. Okay. Pop culture.
Pop culture. Who sang the song Like a Virgin?
Madonna.
Madonna, that was an easy one for you.
Madonna.
All right, we're back to Richard. What do you want to do, Richard?
I'll go back to BMX.
What grips did ODI make that were very popular in the 1980s?
Mushroom.
Mushrooms. All right, good answer. 4-5. Going back to Kevin. What do you think, Kevin?
I'm following Yoda. BMX.
What BMX frame was actually two separate pieces? In
Auburn.
the 1980s. Auburn, yeah. I never rode an Auburn. You ever ride an
Haro
Auburn?
also made one.
What was that one?
Haro also made one.
Did they really?
The Haro composite.
Oh, I
Aluminum
forgot
front
about
end,
that.
chromoly rear end, yellow and black with a switchblade fork.
What did you feel? How do you feel about those two-piece frames? Did they, in your opinion, Richard, was it just form or function or what, anything?
It was, I don't want to say, I don't like using the word gimmick.
Yeah.
It was something to do different. Had I been part of that project, I would have made it more practical and I would have offered different geometries.
Oh, yeah.
I had longer front end or shorter back end and mix and match and made it more practical.
Plan from the beginning to make different rear triangles.
What's that? Yeah, both. And rear.
Frame was to manufacture different size rear triangles that you could take them on and off and change them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they never did.
Yeah, they never did it. They never caught on. But
they built the chromoly and the aluminum, and that was it.
That was it. That was it.
Yeah. Remember the RRS bar? You know the bar that was on my cruiser.
Yeah.
With the replaceable top handle part, the aluminum part.
Yeah.
That was to get different pullbacks, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think about a two-piece, I go to the practicality part, you know. If a guy wanted a longer front end, he could get that, a shorter back end.
I like that. Gimmicky. I say that a lot. Was it a gimmick? Was it a gimmick?
Yeah.
Like the Pro Forks with the shocks inside. I always thought that was super gimmicky because all those guys did was make them rigid, and so they didn't even actually function.
I raced with one on my cruiser for a long time.
Oh, did you really?
And I didn't lock it out. I actually used the suspension.
Oh, nice. You used it for what it was made for.
Yeah, I ran it on my Rumblefish for a long time.
Damn, I should have put that as one of the questions. All right, so Kevin, you can get that one. So it's back to Richard. What would you like? What do you want to do, Richard?
BMX.
Going back to BMX. Okay. All right. What BMX? The company. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. The BMX company RevCore. Where did that come from?
CW.
CW. Yeah. Good job, man. Richard, you could play
so
this game.
So did Bandito and HBS.
Did they really?
Well, they made those two frames.
Oh,
Bandito, the Riverside company had double dropouts.
Yeah.
And HBS was a Xperia bike shop. And what they did to make it look different is, you know how the National Pro Frame had the tube in between, the top tube, down tube?
Yeah, on the Pro Neck one.
Had two of those.
Oh.
And the Bandito handlebar had a square bar under the CW top bar. That's what made it look different. And then the HBS bar had the CW bar with the power bends, like the Pro Power Light bar.
Oh, wow.
Damn, Richard.
You lost your lighting, Richard. Did you turn the light off?
No.
No, he's good.
Oh, it did change, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's
All right.
better,
Well, it's
isn't it?
5-5. So that was Richard got that one. So Kev, what do you want to do?
BMX.
BMX. Okay. Between the 1987 and 1988 season in the ABA, one rider won the national #1 amateur title and then followed it up with the national #1 pro title the following year. Can you tell me who that rider was?
87, 88?
Mm-hmm.
Mike King.
Mike King, man. I was wondering if you were gonna get that. Mike King was the man, dude.
Yeah.
All right, 6-5. Kevin's got a small lead. Going back to Richard. What do you want to do, Richard?
I'll do pop culture.
Okay. Who started the campaign Just Say No?
You know, I'm going to say, and I'm probably totally wrong on this, but Nancy Reagan.
Got
You're
it.
100% correct. Nancy Reagan started that campaign. Richard can play. He's going to be in the championship at 6-6.
Richard is formidable.
Yeah. Okay, Kev, what do you want to do?
Pop culture.
Pop culture. The song Maniac came famous out of what 80s movie?
Wait. It was Michael Zambello, Jennifer Beal, wait. Oh my God, dude. Hold on. Give me 5 seconds. I can't. I'm drawing a blank, dude.
Richard, what do you think? Can you steal
Last Dance.
it? Last Dance. That's the one.
I even knew the damn guy that did the song.
You did. You were like saying everything
knew
correct.
that.
I'm like, right there, dude.
Last Dance. Damn it. Okay.
All right. Richard's got the lead at 7-6. It goes back to Richard. He stole your question. So what do you want to do, Richard?
I'll go back to BMX.
Going back to BMX again. Let's take a look here. All right. GT Auburn Powerlight Robinson was known as the
They're all owned by Right Way.
Okay. It was kind of a nickname for all these teams. What was it known as?
I got to call. I don't know. I have drawn a blank on that one.
What do you think, Kevin?
The Firm.
The Firm, yeah. The Firm. That's what they can...
I had never heard that. That was obviously after I had stopped paying attention.
Yeah, that was in the late 80s. Early 90s? I guess it was early 90s.
Say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on then. So let's see. Kevin, you stole that. So it's tied up. It's 7-7. So what do you want to do?
BMX.
Which one? BMX, okay. Cecil Johns and Darwin Griffin were teammates on what team?
Boss.
Got that one. You didn't even hesitate. Okay, good. All right, looking good. Richard, what do you want to do?
Pop culture.
Going back
Or
to
the pop trivia.
I can never get that right. All right, this is
there you go. That's the Richard I know.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just the guy selling shirts. I don't know nothing about RRS.
What city did Cheers take place in? Was it New York, Chicago, or Boston?
Boston.
Austin. Looking good, man. It's tied up again.
What's the real name of the bar?
I have no idea. Do you know what the bar's called?
I used to, but I forgot.
The Bull and Finch.
Oh, damn, man. You guys are I gotta make this harder.
Yeah, the Bull and Finch bar is in Boston, yeah.
All right, Kevin, we have 2 pop culture questions left and 3 BMX questions left. So what do you want to do?
BMX.
What famous wheel set did Mongoose create?
Pro Class.
Oh, okay. I should have. It goes back further than the pro class.
Motomags.
Motomags. Okay, yeah. I should have told you the era. My bad. So I'll give you that. Okay. All right. It's 9-8, and it's back to Richard. What do you want to do, Richard?
I'll stick with pop culture. Oh, you lost me.
No, he's there. Can you hear us? Uh-oh. Is he there, Kev?
I'm here.
Oh, we lost him. We got to get him. We'll let him come back on. He said pop culture, and he goes, "Oh, you lost me." You're gonna have to do some editing.
No, it's my internet that's jacked up.
That's weird because I can hear you fine. You look normal to me.
Yeah, but normally all the other times it was my internet.
Oh, here he goes.
Here I am.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Pop culture.
You said pop culture?
Yes.
All right. Who said the catchphrase, "I pity the fool"?
I'm going to say Muhammad Ali.
Oh, Kevin, can you steal it?
I know it. No. Oh, never. Okay. There was somebody who played Muhammad Ali, I want to say.
Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Oh, there you go.
Mr. T. You know that he was his
Right
bodyguard.
when I said it, I knew I was wrong.
Okay, so that gets Kevin to 10-8. So Kevin, you're pulling a small lead on Richard here. You stole it. It goes back to you. There's still enough questions for this game to get interesting. So what do you want to do?
Pop culture.
This is the last one for pop culture. What famous video game was released in 1980? Was it Space Invaders, Pac-Man, or Mario Brothers?
Space Invaders.
Oh, what do you think, Richard?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man. Pac-Man came out in 1980. I think Space Invaders is a 70s game, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
When video games had come out, I was at Mike Miranda's house.
Yeah.
And his dad was complaining about video games. And he's like, "You guys get out of here and go play your hemorrhoids." It was asteroids he was referring to.
That's fun, man. I love that. All right, guys. It is Richard's turn. He stole. It's 9-10. We have 2 BMX questions left. So this could be
I'll go with BMX.
Okay, this is it. Who made the Sting?
Schwinn.
Schwinn made the Sting. So now, okay, Kevin, he's tied you. So if you get this question right, you win. If you get it wrong, Richard can steal it and he'll tie the game. Well, no, he'll win the game.
He'll win the game.
Yeah. It'll come down to one question.
One question. All right, fire and ready, man.
What does ELF stand for?
I'm sorry to do this to you, Richard. I apologize, man.
No worries.
Extra light frames, that's it. And Kevin gets the win today on a Sunday morning. But he only wins by 1 point, 11-10. Richard, you did awesome. You said you looked hesitant about the whole trivia thing, but you did great, man.
Well, thank you. I had a great time.
That was fun, bro. Richard, thank you very much. Virtual fist bump.
Yep. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, bro. And if I'm dead serious about coming up and checking out your bikes in the near future, if that's good with you. And
yeah. Oh, I'd love to have you out.
If I ever have a chance to get some other motocross guys on, because we talked a lot about motocross at Dirty Fest too. I would love to talk to you more about motocross and dirt bikes and 70s bikes and RD400s and all these different bikes that we had. I'd love to talk to you if you want to come back on again, bro.
Yeah, anytime, Kevin. I had a good time. This was a lot of fun.
And I wanted to thank Richard so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and I'm very glad that we got a chance to meet you, and hopefully we'll become friends. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, man. Peace out. Have a good one. Say hi to Holly for me.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Now I just have to figure out how to get out of this.
I'll get you out right now.
So I have to say that he's such a nice guy, man. I mean, every time he came over and was talking to us in the booth, he's just super nice. His wife was really nice. So it was, like I said earlier, just letting him talk was kind of like the thing. I was going to ask him questions, but he was just going, and I'm like, he's doing fine on his own. I don't really need. You would ask him a question, and he had stories. So that was it. Yeah.
I feel bad because we literally could have talked to him for 5 hours easily. And we had to condense it down a little bit, but hopefully when we bring him back on, we can delve a little bit more into a little more. Maybe we passed over the BMX stuff a little bit to get to GPV. Because the GPV stuff fascinated me, man. I was rushing to get to that part of the interview, man. First, and maybe we went too fast over the BMX stuff, but being on a junior high school team with all those guys on your team, what are the odds on that much talent coming out of the same junior high school, bro?
We could have talked an hour just about that. Like, I was so fascinated with that. I'm like, wow, you were in junior high and there was a race team? That's just unheard of. I was in junior high and nobody really knew about BMX other than there was a few of us that raced, right? And kids had BMX bikes, don't get me wrong, but as far as racers are concerned, I think there was 3 of us that were racers in the entire school. So that's why it was really interesting for me to hear that. Yeah.
Crazy stuff, man. But as always, Danny, I appreciate you joining me, man. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. You're part of the team. I've always considered you part of the team, a partner. So thank you. For those watching,
let me apologize really quick for not being 100% prepared, man. My plan was to get up earlier and get all the questions ready, and the morning just got away from me, and I'm like, I got to do the questions still. And I was listening to him, and I was making questions, and I'm like, I can't half-ass it. They have to be good, But it was really good, man. That was a good battle between you two.
That was a good battle, dude. And I appreciate it. Once again, I appreciate it. For those out there that are watching this, Danny does not. Danny, though he's my partner here on the podcast, Danny has his own thing that he does on the side. And Danny, if you want to share what you do when you're not with me, that'd be great if you want to share it.
Yeah, Danny Pena, BMX Racing. That's how you can find me on YouTube. I'm going to do a video today. I'm going to do a race review today. Sometime this evening, I'll probably do it. But I love doing BMX magazine reviews such as this one. This is where I get all my knowledge from, is from just all these magazines. And I love reviewing these. And then that spun off to watching races and reviewing those. And I just love talking about BMX. So please come like, subscribe, share. And Kevin, I was at 900. I went back to 899 subscribers.
I saw that.
Back to 900 this morning. So I was like, it's weird when you get over that one hump, right? You're right on the edge, and you're like, please, no one unsubscribe, and it always happens.
It normally is. You get 3 or 4 subscribers, and you lose 1. 3 or 4, and you lose 1. That's normally happens.
YouTube is a game I haven't figured out.
You can lose 1 anytime now, and it'll happen. But
let's hope not.
Everybody that watches and subscribes, please do so. We would love to have you join the party. We try to make things fun for everybody. And Danny, I'd like to give you props because on the last episode with Marty, you were talking with such authority about the race in Canada, Whistler. Like, yep, Harry won this race, and the next day Stu broke his collar. And the way I was like, damn, dude, Danny's spitting the truth, man. That was a very impressive. So I give you props, dude. You've been doing your homework in those magazines, dude. So good job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. If
anybody out there would like to support this podcast, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe or you can check out my website at www.bmxperts.com. You can pick up a sweatshirt, a tat, a t-shirt to help me. Neither Danny or I will never ask for any money from anybody, but if you'd like to support the channel, you could do that. And I would be remiss if I forgot to mention that this episode is sponsored by RIP BMX Wear. RIP BMX Wear is a clothing company ran by Joe Tippett, who creates these awesome T-shirts with deceased legendary BMX riders in the industry. If you'd like to check out his shirts, and his old Facebook page. I will connect that, link it in the description of this video, and I will provide a link to the video from Richard Kerr crashing into the mountain at 90 miles an hour, passing the motorcycle. It's a great clip. And with that being said, I want to thanks again for everybody for joining us. You got anything more, Danny, or are you good?
That's it, man. It was a lot of fun, and it's time to go get some lunch.
Go get some lunch. Until next week, the track is now closed. Peace out, everybody.
Come on, come on.